Okay, okay, Mayor, we live.
Thank you. So today is February 16th, 2022, and the time is 7:19 p.m. And I'm calling to order the Baldwin Park City Council virtual regular meeting. City Manager, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'll be happy to, Mayor. Everyone, please look at the mayor's screen there with the flag. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
to the
flag of the United States of America.
Okay.
And to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. City Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Alejandra Avila,
Here.
Councilmember Monica Garcia. I believe she was not going to be able to attend the meeting. Councilmember Paul Hernandez,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian,
Here.
Mayor Emanuel Estrada.
Here. And then so,
And I'm here.
oh yes, and then don't
Oh,
forget.
Marie, I'm
City
sorry.
Treasurer.
Marie.
And Rulo.
Did we want to excuse Councilwoman Garcia?
Yes, I'll make a motion to excuse Councilmember Garcia. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? And I believe we haven't recessed, we haven't adjourned from closed session, but City Attorney, is there anything to report out?
Need to unmute, Robert.
I'm sorry, thank you. No, Mr. Mayor, we've not reported out, we've not finished our closed session, and therefore we have not anything to report out at this time.
Great. And so at this moment, I will make an announcement. The City Council are also members of the Board of Directors of the Housing Authority and Finance Authority, which are concurrently convening with the City Council this evening, and each council member is paid an additional stipend of $30 for attending the Housing Authority meeting and $50 for attending the Finance Authority meeting. We will now move on to our presentation, and that is a cannabis program presentation presented by Benjamin Martinez, Director of Community Development and HDL Companies.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'm happy to present Mr. Mark Lovelace and David McPherson of the HDL companies, Cannabis division. The HDL company has a very long history in working with city governments going back multiple decades. The city of Baldwin Park has enjoyed a good business relationship. They're the company that monitors and tracks our sales tax and property tax revenues. This is how the company was born. And then they have branched into other areas, including cannabis. They are experts in cannabis, and we've met with them over the past couple weeks and months. And under the city manager's authority, we contracted them to begin to, talk about our cannabis program. I'm going to present Mr. Mark Lovelace to talk more about the company and how they can fit in our team, along with our legal advisors and our staff. But these folks are the experts in California when it comes to cannabis, having represented over 175 cities and counties in developing cannabis programs. They do audits and inspections, and they've reviewed over 3,500 cannabis business applications. So they've seen it all. They know the trends. They represent multiple governments. They only represent governments. They do not represent the private sector, only governments, which is very key. And I'm happy to present them tonight, or to introduce them. So Mr. Lovelace, if you could begin your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's nice to be here, and hello to all of the members of the council. My name is Mark Lovelace. I'm a senior policy advisor with HDL Companies with our cannabis management team. And I'm here tonight just to provide an overview and an introduction to HDL, our team, and the services that we provide, along with an outline of the services that we've been requested to provide to the city. By way of introduction for myself, I am a former Humboldt County supervisor, was on the board of supervisors in Humboldt for 2 terms, 8 years, during a very active time as legalization of cannabis was first on the horizon and then became a reality with propositions with Mount HRSA first off, and then with Proposition 64, and helped to develop our regulatory program and tax program here in Humboldt. So can we go to the next slide, please? So about HDL, just a little bit of background has been noted. Hinderleiter, DeLamas and Associates, or HDL, were originally founded in 1983. We provide a variety of tax, auditing, compliance, economic development, and consulting services to local governments in California, and we've expanded now to 5 states around the country. Among the services that we provide are sales tax auditing, transaction use tax auditing, property tax, transient occupancy taxes, cannabis taxes. We provide a wide range of services for all of these different kinds of taxes that counties and cities have to deal with to ensure that the revenues that each client, county or city, deserves are being generated. Make sure that you're getting all of the revenue that should be coming your way. HDL currently serves over 500 cities and counties across 5 states, and would also like to note that HDL is a 100% employee-owned company. Next slide, please. We established our cannabis division in 2016, and that was the product of David McPherson, our compliance director, who is also here in the meeting. Since then, our cannabis team, he's assembled a team that has over 65 years of combined experience. And I'll go through some of our key team members in just a minute here. Since that time, we have assisted over 175 California cities and counties in developing their cannabis programs, including regulatory ordinances, tax ordinances, the actual implementation of those regulations, enforcement, a lot of monitoring, just full range of services that we'll run through here. Of that, we've conducted over 18,000 audits and inspections of cannabis businesses. Our team members have that experience. We've reviewed over 3,500 cannabis business applications. And as noted, HDL works solely with public agencies. We have no private sector clients in the cannabis industry or in any other industry. We work for you, the county or the city specifically, and make sure that we have no conflicts regarding that. Next slide, please. So our cannabis management team, just to introduce the 4 primary key members here, David McPherson, our compliance director, who is credited with initiating and developing this team. He was former revenue and tax administrator for the city of Oakland, developed the first Prop 64 compliant regulatory program in the state. He has, since his time with HDL, he has developed 84 of the 121 successful cannabis tax measures in California. So he has a tremendous experience developing tax programs for counties and cities. He is also recognized as leading expert in California cannabis policies and regulations. He also has experience prior to, along with his experience with the city of Oakland, David also has past experience working for the city of San Jose with Orange County and has a background in law enforcement. Matt Eaton is our deputy compliance director and heads up the compliance program for HDL, the compliance inspections primarily, and also with the application reviews that we do for our clients. Matt, as noted here, is a former investigator with Colorado's Marijuana Enforcement Division. He's conducted over 10,000 investigations and compliance inspections through his many, many years of service and experience. He helped to develop Colorado's regulatory protocols for enacting and making their cannabis program workable. You know, there's a lot that goes on between the development of the legislation and the actual implementation of it. And Matt had a key role in that. He's also responsible for reviewing over 3,500 cannabis business applications in his time with HDL. Next slide, please. AJ Kaluri is our Deputy Audit and Policy Director. He is formerly the Assistant Manager for the City of Long Beach and was responsible for the oversight of that city's cannabis management program. And in that role, he managed over 200 cannabis licenses and oversaw revenues of $10 million annually for the city. And myself, as noted, Senior Policy Advisor for HDL, former supervisor of Humboldt County. The work that I do for HDL is primarily providing market analysis and revenue projections. And in doing that, I've conducted economic impact analyses for over 30 counties and cities in California to help them get a good perspective of what a cannabis program could look like in their county or city, what kinds of revenues they might expect, what parts of the industry might be strong points for them. And we also have 12 additional staff, including 5 auditors, 4 inspectors, 3 business application reviewers to round out our team. So all told, we've got a 17-member team that you will have working for you. Next slide, please. So the scope of services that we have been hired to provide for the city include, first off, a fiscal analysis of your development agreement fees. And this is a step to ensure that the development agreement fees that you have been collecting have been properly tracked and deposited in separate funds, and that all of the requirements of Government Code Section 66006 that oversees development agreements in California have been properly followed and tracked. So that's kind of a retrospective looking backwards at how the city has managed its development agreement fees. We also have been hired to review and evaluate the city's public benefit fees. And that's a portion of the development fees that is dedicated to providing specified public benefits as negotiated with the city, between the applicant and the city. And as part of that, to help to determine what those fees, whether they're reasonable and appropriate in proportion to the gross receipts of the cannabis businesses, to ensure that they're competitive and aren't being any sort of an impediment to the success of those businesses. Because, of course, to generate revenue from cannabis businesses, you have to ensure that those businesses are successful. We also, as part of that, will be comparing the fees with the fees or taxes imposed by other nearby jurisdictions and averages around the state. We'll be analyzing any changes that the city may be proposing or considering, and we'll provide recommendations to guide and inform any potential changes to the development agreement fees as the city moves forward. Along with these are kind of the primary services that we have been engaged to assist the city with. We'll also be providing application reviews, helping the city with reviewing applications for additional cannabis businesses as they come forward, to make sure that they've addressed all the requirements of the city's municipal code. We will be conducting pre-licensed site inspections, and this is a matter of going out on site when the business has been approved for a license, but they still have to get all of their permits, all of their entitlements in place. And the last step is a walkthrough of the site to make sure that everything's in order. And our role in that is to ensure that all of the cannabis specific aspects of the build out of that site have been addressed correctly. Security cameras, the limited access areas, all of the things that are necessary to ensure that they're complying with the cannabis requirements from the city and with state law. We will be providing regulatory compliance inspections. These are after the businesses are up and running, going out once a year to engage with the business, inspect it, make sure that they're following the protocols and requirements of the city's code in practice. And as part of this service, this ends up being kind of a collaborative service because the tremendous experience that our inspectors bring to this means that they're just a walking fountain of knowledge that they can exchange and help with those businesses to not only ensure that they're complying with law, but help them find the most efficient and effective ways to comply with law. And lastly, we will also be providing general subject matter expertise and technical assistance for the city on any other cannabis-related matters that may come up, so that we're available to you for anything, any questions, anything that arises that may be outside of this scope of services. We're here for you, and we can provide whatever assistance you may need. Additional services, can we move to the next slide? Additional services that we offer. We also do cannabis revenue audits. This is a service that we provide for a lot of our clients, and that's to ensure that the revenue that's being reported to the local jurisdiction, reported and remitted, is accurate, and so that the reporting that they're providing and the taxes that they're paying or fees are as required, and that they're meeting all the terms of their business permit or of their development agreements. We also provide supplemental background checks. This is something that expands upon the regular live scan that is required as a part of the state licensing, to look at other things that may be of interest to the city, to ensure that along with the look for certain felony red flags that are required as a live scan, we also look for things such as financial malfeasance or fraud or lack of payment on obligations, things that, again, might be informative to the city and helpful in making decisions regarding permitting and licensing. And we also can provide compliance training for city staff. Many cities like to have their staff involved in the compliance inspection aspect and need a little assistance in understanding how to develop those programs, how to staff up for it, and what exactly they need to do to conduct those inspections. So these are the services that we provide. We move to the next slide. That's pretty much my presentation here for tonight. We've only been engaged recently for the city, so we're looking forward to conducting this work. We've had a fair amount of engagement already about some of the services that we'll be providing. And with that, we'd open up to any questions that you may have.
David, I just wanted Mr. McPherson to just give a few comments, if he's still with us, and his preliminary thoughts on just where the city stands generally in our progress.
Thank you, Ben. Good evening again, Council, Mayor and Council, David McPherson. So in talking to staff, one of the things that we recognize, and I think what's unique and important kind of with this relationship, is that we've been in your shoes. As Mark had indicated, I was not only in the state and the country, I was the first person in the country to tax and regulate the industry when I was Oakland, and I had no one to look for. There was no state regulations. When we started co-op and collectives, there was no directions. In fact, we had to work with the state in developing stuff. So, kind of being in those shoes of understanding as you start new, not only a new industry that's new to us as a whole, it's something new to everything, but really what does it mean as we've evolved through a co-op and collective world to a gray area to implement the development of state regulations that continue to evolve and change literally every 3 months or 90 days. There's been changes that. And as you brought your program up, you were at a point in time of where you felt good about where you were going with it at that snapshot in time when you rang the bell and kicked your program off. And here we are today learning some of the challenges you had, some of the logistics, some of the trends and impacts of the businesses, both from them being successful and sustainable, but also some of the moving parts that have affected you in developing your program. So what I just want to share with you is that we have a team that are first movers on the regulatory government side from 3 states, as we mentioned, Colorado, Nevada, and California. And because of the volume we've done, you're going to get the benefits of all the other intel and information and lessons learned from clients and from us and the regulators that we've had to go through to evolve where we are. And so as we examine your program, and as I shared with Ben, is the first thing that's important is really getting assessment of the businesses and understanding the dynamics before saying something's good, something's bad, or what would be a good improvement and value added in order to make sure your businesses are successful, sustainable, accountable, and that anything that's oversight to them is reasonable so that it is a cooperative experience for everyone involved. So with that, I appreciate your time and look forward to working with your team.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I just closed that. It's a big company, a lot of services, a lot of expertise, and we're just kicking off with them. We're getting to know each other, and I think this is the folks that can help round out the team and help guide us in the future. And if there's any questions, thank you.
Thank you for that, Ben. So no questions on my side. Just definitely, I think one of the reasons we consider this is because we're looking to make sure that, the systems here at City Hall are transparent and safe for everybody and overall helpful, not just for the operators, but also for our staff. We want to make sure that staff has the helping hands that they need, and also that the operators have the accessibility to wherever they need to get things going, and so that there's a better communication between both sides. Overall, just we're trying to make something that's efficient for both ends of the line. So I don't know if any council members have any questions, concerns.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember.
thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ben, for bringing them on board and bringing us this presentation. I think we all came on board and started this cannabis without any knowledge of really what we were getting into. And Ben, it's been a lot of work, a lot of trial and error. And so I think we need experts to guide us and help us. And like the mayor said, not just the staff, but also our operators, to make sure that everything's running smoothly, that we get the needed inspections and all the services that they provide. So thank you for that presentation, Ben. Thank you, Mr. Lovelace. Am I saying it correctly?
Lovelace.
Lovelace, sorry. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, thank you, Mark. Really appreciate this presentation, and more importantly, the services in which you'll be providing to the city. I think what it comes with is the experience, but also the knowledge that you can lend yourself to our city staff and be able to move, more importantly, more transparent. So that's the biggest piece for myself. It bifurcates some of the work that our city staff is doing with these individuals, and I fully support your position of not taking on clients that are not a non-government entity. Again, that brings back to the credibility and support. I think we've all been looking, and we're certainly glad you're on board. So thank you.
Great, thank you. So if there is no more comments at this time, I want to thank you for being here with us. At this moment, we'll move to open public communications, and then Chief Deputy City Clerk, is there anybody looking to speak?
Yes, Mayor, we have 3 speakers. We have Mr. Tuttle, Mr. Rios, and Catherine Lozier. I will try Mr. Tuttle first. One moment.
Hello?
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Tuttle. This is Lulu again calling you from the city of
Buenas
Baldwin
tardes.
Park
Soy
regarding
Lulu,
your
estamos
3
hablando de la ciudad de Baldwin Park.
hours, sorry, 3 minutes. Just
3 hours? Okay, I'll take 3 hours.
My
3
apologies,
horas.
3 minutes.
Disculpe, 3 minutos para sus comentarios.
Your time starts once you speak. Go ahead.
Empieza a correr su tiempo ahora. Good evening, council. Buenas noches, consejo. First of all, in the Quería special primero meeting at the very end, una junta we especial finally al came to the final. conclusion that we've told you all along. Algo que hemos And all dicho, these people that cook on the sidewalks will never ever los get licensed cocineros and que be able están to en la operate in calle. the city. So just like before, we should have done this a long time ago. I just hope this is done efficiently and get it over with and get these vendors off the sidewalk. Now, on to the next thing is the sales tax increase that you're wanting to do and have the people vote in. I talked to the county and I've talked to several other people. There's no county thing trying to go and going to take this tax away that if you get it increased. The sales tax has to be voted in by the residents. If the residents voted in, you don't increase it. The thing is, if you increase the sales tax, that talks to increasing the sales tax on a car, electric bills, gas bills, going to the grocery store, restaurants, you name it. It's going to affect businesses and residents all in this city. And only because the reason you had to do this was because your corrupt and still employed city attorney messed up all the weed contracts and never got the weed contracts corrected right so that we could start getting revenue into the city. And I'm glad to see that this company is coming on board to educate the city and do it the right way. And this is the way it should have been done to begin with, but you guys were not the start of this whole thing. There was another council at that time. But this sales tax increase of you coming in, hiring this slick firm to come in and make slick things, saying we're going to put it into the general fund and we're going to give it to the Parks and Rec. We're going to do all this stuff. Manny Carrillo's got millions of dollars over there at that Parks and Rec through grants. He doesn't need that money. He also gets it from developers that puts in new apartment buildings, homes, and all that other stuff. We need to understand that the sales tax doesn't get increased in slick words at the end of September, trying to tell voters that they need to vote in and spend more of their money is not right. You're sitting there trying to save them money on the rent that they're not even paying rent increases, and the landlords are suffering and everything else. And here you're wanting to take from the poor again and pay more sales tax because your mismanagement of the weed money. The weed money would cover all this when it's done efficiently. And it would cover all the money that the city needs to pay off all the lawsuits that this city attorney has incurred. So I suggest to you, you drop this thing before you spend any more money on this firm to come in with some slick advertising to please increase our sales tax because we're stupid. We don't understand that we're going to pay more money and the city's going to piss it away in the general fund. Just like they did the $50,000 for the police department. And the police never got any money of that from the weed people.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Tuttle.
I suggest that you guys stop the sales tax. Thank you.
Thank you. The next caller is Mr. Rios. One moment.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Rios. This is Lulu calling you from the city of Baldwin Park regarding your request to speak in the regular session of the city council meeting. You have 3 minutes and your time begins once you start speaking.
Thank you. Like I said earlier, I do have pictures of everything. If something does happen, they can always contact me, and I have all the pictures of all the violations that the street vendors have, okay? But other than that, I just want to talk something positive. I've been talking to the CEO and to Anthony, trying to keep our city clean. Anthony and his group has done a beautiful job. They've been going around picking up all the trash that people just throw out in the city of Baldwin Park. Plus, there's some areas which I mentioned to Anthony that they took down the signs of no parking. And it's right there in the Delwood apartment in that area. And the cops, they did come on Thursday, but other than that, I haven't seen them in the past, I would say 5 days, you know. And there's still parking right there at the red zones and everything. We need to have the police department do some more drive-bys in our community. I don't know what has happened, but they're just lack of police force. In one part of it is that the community don't trust the police department, which is bad. We had a very tight police department that people would call them up and they would respond. But lately we've been having a lot of problems. They call up and a lot of times they come and they tell me, well, why call the cops? They're not going to do anything. And it's bad. It's getting that bad that, you know, we need to do, I don't know if the chief can do it or get somebody else to do it, but it is bad. So I just want to put that out in the front. And, you know, like I said, Anthony and his group is doing a beautiful job, you know. And the stuff that were broken and stuff like that, Anthony's and his group is doing, like I said, beautiful. All the trash that the street vendors are leaving, you know, Anthony's group has to go out and clean it up. So other than that, you know, thank you for the time and you guys have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Rios.
Okay.
The next caller is Catherine Lozier. One moment.
Hello.
Hi, Catherine. This is Lulu calling you from the city of Baldwin Park regarding your request to speak at the regular session. Your time starts when you begin speaking. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, community partners, and fellow committee members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. It is a pleasure tonight to announce that our in-person programming will resume at the LA County Libraries beginning the week of February 28th. At Baldwin Park Library, our Smarty Pants Storytime will resume on Thursday, March 3rd. It's a 4-week series for preschool children ages 2 to 5 with their parents. And there'll be books, songs, rhymes, movements while learning school readiness skills and having fun. And space is very limited, so advanced registration is required. And registration will open 1 week prior to the event, which would be February 24th at 11 a.m. We do still have a virtual programming for those who are not able to participate in person. So for those who are interested in Smarty Pants Storytime, that would be available on Fridays at 11 o'clock. And we will still have both in-person and virtual programming, and all of our events can be found online at lacountylibrary.org/virtual programming. Thank you so much for the time this evening, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Mayor, that concludes our public speakers.
Great, thank you. So at this moment, I will move to close public communication. And we have a consent calendar. So is there any items that council is looking to pull?
I'm sorry, Mayor, it's Ben. I did want to note that there's a typo on number 10. The grant that we are receiving from the San Gabriel Valley Regional Housing Trust is for $1,250,000, not $1,150,000. 125,000 as stated in the report. So that's a typo, just to note that change.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, if I could pull 7.
great. And then I will pull item number 9 and 10. Is there any other items? If not, at this moment, I will make a motion to pass consent calendar items number 1 through 14, excluding items number 7, 9, and 10. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? Oh, you know what, City Clerk, roll call, please.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Avila,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Damian.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And then Councilmember Hernandez, you have the floor with item number 7.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I just want to be able to add for consideration for all of us is to add to the class specs that are in the report for both of them, the verbiage that says for police captain, lieutenant, and sergeant, that they align also that the college degree is an accredited recognized institution. There are several accreditations, and those are all fine. But I just want to make sure that we're accepting degrees that are from accredited institutions. And I believe the chief is fine with that recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that is my motion at the same time.
I will second your motion.
Great. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Damian,
Yes.
Mayor Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Avila,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great. Thank you for that. And so we move on to item number 9. And I think we do have the San Gabriel Valley Habitat for Humanity team here with us today.
Yes.
Great. And then, so Ben, I think, and then just double check, I think I looked through the agreement, but it was, some of the numbers were left blank. So we have to decide what percentage goes where. Or is there a recommended amount of money to go towards acquisition rehab and then the rest towards low-income home repairs?
Yes, Mayor. The city council did authorize back in October of last year, the funding of 3.5 million approximately to go to Habitat for a number of programs, including acquisition rehab. So tonight's action is just to approve the form of the agreements that Habitat will utilize when they pursue when they pursue the purchase of a property for acquisition rehab. As we know, the real estate market is extremely competitive. I was talking to Grant Power of Habitat earlier today, and they were looking at a property in our city, and a dilapidated property, and it had 16 offers, and all the offers were $70,000 over the asking price. So it just gives you an idea of what's going on out there. So the purpose of these approval of these documents is that they can act quickly, and the city manager would be authorized to, execute the agreements without council approval, because you would have approved the form of the agreements. If there is time, though, we would bring back the particular acquisition project, for council approval, but this would allow us to move more quickly.
Okay, I think that's fine. I just wanted to double check. And then, so real quick, I know that, 3.5 doesn't sound like a lot, but from my understanding, it'll get, it leverages some of Habitat's funds, and we're able actually to purchase more housing than we think we are. Is that correct, Grant?
Yes, it is.
So do you have an estimate of how many homes we could potentially acquire, or a rough estimate of how many home ownership opportunities we'll be able to create?
While it's difficult to estimate precisely, we think we can produce somewhere between 30 and 40 home ownership opportunities from these funds, in addition to providing perhaps 2 or 3 dozen home repair or owner-occupied repair projects that would, in the end, enable people to stay in place or preserve their housing.
Great. That's really neat. The hire is a lot. The number is a lot higher than I thought I would. So I'm very excited for that. I know, every time we share about Torch Street, a lot of the community members do get excited and they ask about how they can sign up for that. So I want to make sure that we can share with them, the big progress we're doing on a lot of these projects.
Thank you. We're very excited to move forward. We're already looking actively for opportunities in acquisition rehabilitation of new properties or of existing properties in Baldwin Park. And we're looking at the possibility of new construction for 15 new units on a single property that is in addition to Torch Street based on this new allocation.
Great. And then so I've been reading a lot. So your biggest project to date is 16 units, I believe, right? And that's somewhere in San Gabriel?
We have a large project that was 18 units that was several years ago.
Gotcha.
And that was our largest. But right now, Torch Street is at the top in terms of the size of project that we're working on.
Nice.
With 12.
Great. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to making the next goal, building the biggest project you have here in Baldwin Park.
Thank you. We look forward to working on that, and we'll continue our search. And we'd like to do this very much in collaboration with the city, with staff providing new addresses or opportunities that we may otherwise not see.
Yes, of course. We'll definitely make sure we do that. So thank you, Grant, for being here.
Thank you.
I'm going to make a motion to pass item number 9. Can I get a second?
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Avila,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great, thank you for that. And so item number 10 is a consideration of an agreement between the City of Baldwin Park and the San Gabriel Valley Regional Housing Trust to provide homeless housing and related services for homeless families at 13167 Garvey Avenue. And then I see that we do have Gabriel with us, and then we have Ben and Sam, and I think any other staff that might be involved in this project. So, we've been able to acquire a $1.25 million grant solely for the construction, if I'm not mistaken. And so I want to make sure that that we're able to move fast on this, potentially being able to open up at least the family portion for the school year so that, any children that are facing housing insecurity are able to start the school year in a stable place. And so I think we have Braille here. So Braille, can you kind of talk to us about how we can spend these dollars or how we can achieve that?
Sure. So I would just add that the board requested that the funding is primarily spent on construction, but if there are operational fees or if there's room in the budget, we are also able to support operational fees. So the award was contingent on producing 50 beds of homeless housing. So it's an award of $25,000 per bed of homeless housing. And the San Gabriel Valley Regional Housing Trust and the COG staff are available to assist with technical assistance. So we will be providing architectural assistance. The same firm that helped us put together Baldwin Park Tiny Homes Esperanza will be available to help with site design and making sure that this is a really well thought out project. And we're here to assist in any way we can.
Great. And then so just to clarify, we are having that overnight parking in a couple of months. And then so we're using that same site. So we could potentially use some of these funds to buy the infrastructure that, as long as it's being used at the end for the final project, which is the tiny homes, correct? So like we were talking about potential showers, et cetera.
Yes. So we could start infrastructure expenses as soon as the MOA is executed. I believe Ben noted in the report that we have it as 25% available immediately.
Great. Okay. And then I think Sam was saying that he could also help with procurement. So Sam, in order for you to be able to expedite procurement of infrastructural needs and other equipment, what would you need from the council?
So approval of this item would be the first order of business. And then after that, I would work with Ben, Manny, and Brielle on the logistics, and then we can start the procurement of, whatever the design is going to be in the number of units and whatnot.
Great. Okay. So, and then I know that before you were able to spend a certain amount of money without it coming to council approval, I don't think we formally ever changed that. So you could potentially do that with these funds.
That is correct.
Okay. Just based on the, on the matter, I think being an urgent one, I would like to give you direction to do so if the other council members feel comfortable with that.
Yes.
Great. So I think that's clear direction. I didn't hear any no's. And then I will make a motion to pass number 10 with the added direction. Can I get a second?
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Avila,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
motion passes.
Mayor,
Yes.
really quick, I just want to add that I am looking forward to this project, and especially if we can get it going before the new school year starts. As I always said, there's a lot of families that don't have a place to sleep, and they look and they search for a hand-me-down just to get a night's hotel. And it means a lot to me to be able to finally bring something to our city that will be helping our families that are not so lucky like the rest of us, and that we're going to be able to make a difference for those children. I can't wait to see the smiles on their faces. Thank you, Brielle, for all the work you do. You are amazing. I love it. I love your energy and your knowledge when it comes to helping those that are in need. So I'm really looking forward to this new project.
Thank you. We're so grateful for this partnership with the city.
Great, thank you. So thank you, Brielle, and Councilmember Avila, for your comments. I do think, this is the first time I've heard of anybody potentially using the expanded tiny home size and getting creative on how we can help families. So it would be a first, not just in the San Gabriel, not just in Baldwin Park, but in the San Gabriel Valley and potentially in the region. So, we'll keep breaking barriers and being an adamant, supporter of fighting housing insecurity here in Baldwin Park. So thank you for that. And so I believe we are at City Council acting as successor agency of the Salt Community Development Commission. I will make a motion to pass that consent calendar. Can I get a second?
Okay.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Avila,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great, thank you for that. And then we have a public hearing, which is for fiscal year 2022-23, annual action plan housing and community development needs and priorities public hearing. So I will officially open the public hearing. Chief Deputy City Clerk, is there anybody looking to speak during the public hearing?
No, Mayor, we don't have any speakers for the public hearing.
Great, so at this moment, I will officially close the public hearing. And I will make a motion to.
Mr. Mayor, before we do that, if I may.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. Just have quick questions. Ben or Carol, can you just share with us at what point do we actually begin to see the allocation of the money tied to each of these priorities? When do we approve that?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So tonight is the beginning of the process. HUD requires a public hearing be held before we do anything. So that's why usually all cities have this public hearing and there's not much to talk about or say because we haven't presented anything. So
okay.
Then the next step will be a 30-day review period while we develop essentially the plan and the budget. That'll be through March 16th and May 4th. And then we will bring back the budget, the plan in May for consideration by the council. That's when you will begin to see the potential allocations after we've discussed this with the city manager, all the department heads. We also have a new housing commission. And so that's a new commission that we did not have before. So we plan to involve them in the process as well. We haven't quite thought that out completely because it's new, but we plan to do that.
Okay. So after that period of time is when they'll come back after their recommendations and input. We'll receive what those final allocation numbers are.
Correct.
Okay. And there's still opportunities for other nonprofit organizations to submit proposals during this period of time. And if so, where would they do that?
Yes, the applications are online, or they can contact our department. The applications are available for public services or developers that want to present housing proposals or the like. So we are accepting proposals. I'm trying to find the date. We still have several weeks, so that closes. So there is time.
Excellent. One other item, if I can, under priority number 6, which is, I believe, the second to last page. Right now it says, provide public services for residents with special needs, and then goals special needs services. The way it reads, is this with people? What do you mean by the terminology of special needs? Can you just clarify that?
Well, I think it's a broad definition. It could involve victims of domestic violence. It could it could be for families or individuals with mental illness and so forth. So it's a very broad category. It looks like, we have funded in the past domestic violence services and assisted the YWCA, but other entities and organizations providing special needs could apply for funding.
Okay, I would just change, if we can, the term special needs is a bit outdated for some of those communities that you just talked about. The more recognized and accepted term is people with disabilities, access and functional needs, or functional need, excuse me. So if we can just make that notable change, that'd be great. Mr. Mayor, if as you're about to make your motion, and then also if we can just certainly reach out with some of those nonprofit organizations in the San Gabriel Valley, encourage them to apply for some of these funds and provide those type of programs in addition to the domestic violence advocate, services from San Gabriel SGY. But also for some of our youth. As you know, we have a park that we're making it more accessible for their youth. So we might as well also piggyback some of the grant funds to support some of those opportunities for our youth here in our community and individuals, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, that's all. If you want to capture that in your motion.
Great. So how about I make a motion? So I'll make a motion to pass fiscal year item number 15. We've conducted a public hearing. Any comments made? We have all of our comments. There was no residents. So I will make a motion. And then I believe I have to read the item title. So just to be safe. So I'll make a motion to pass item number 15, fiscal year 2022-23 annual action plan housing and community development needs and priorities public hearing, with the added changes by Councilmember Hernandez to the titles and the efforts to increase our efforts to contact these nonprofits so that they can also apply for this available funding. And that is a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Great. I hope I didn't butcher your direction.
No, I think you got it. And I think staff understands where we're going with that.
All right, City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Avila,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great, thank you for that. And let's see, so we've finished that, and now I believe we are down to our reports of officers, and that is our consideration of ordinance of the City of Baldwin Park to establish campaign contribution limits and penalties in Baldwin Park. City Attorney Robert, I don't know if you want to quickly touch on it and let us know some of the changes that were made.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. As you know, we've taken up this item in a prior city council meeting, and I received direction to make some changes as it related to the ordinance. Some of the major changes that I made related to loan limits. I also instituted, at the direction of the council, some window periods from which donations can be made. I also, at the direction of council, tighten up some language as it relates to what elections this applies to, so that it would only be the city of Baldwin Park elections for mayor, for city council members, treasurer, and for city clerk. So I expressly, I believe, excluded any other elections such as a school board, water board, things of that nature. Also added some additional language as it related to developers and vendors to make that more clear. And then finally, we added some things to the enforcement for violations to make sure that there was sufficient teeth. We increased the fines from a dollar amount to, I believe it was up to 3 times the amount of the illegal contribution. And we also changed some language as it related to the enforcement by the FPPC. And then I added a new section as it related to loans, 40.11. And I also added a section regarding aggregation of payments, section 40.12, to make it clear that if you were aggregating payments, it was still held within that limit. And then finally, we also added a section related to political action committees and or independent expenditure, so that any independent expenditures would be identified, and any political action committees would also have to be identified as well. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you for that. And then, so I believe, and then do we have a statute of limitations on those fines?
I don't believe there's a statute of limitation provision specifically in here. We could add that as well, or we could add it from the dice here if you like. The violations themselves would have to be identified, of course, and if you wanted to put a statute of limitations on it, we could add, something like within 12 months from the date of the violation. With no statute of limitations, of course, then you could bring that claim and that violation at any time.
Great. Well, I think it might be recommended to add the statute of limitations, and we could do something like the full term or 2 terms. That's something that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, I'm fine with 1 full term, 4 years. That's fine.
Great. And then, so I know that we didn't have contribution limits before. So one of the things that we have to talk about is the contributions received from the sources before they became restricted, the dollar amount.
I'm sorry, Mayor, going back to the full term or 4 years, we would need to specify, because a mayoral term is 1 term is 2 years, and for council, city treasurer, city clerk, it's 4 years. So if you'd like to specify whether we're doing 4 years, 2 years.
So we would just do 4 years.
Are you talking about doing the enforcement, the 40.09.02, Mayor?
The statute of limitations, putting in time, because which makes sense, right? Because then that means that the mayor could get away after 2 years, right? And we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I've got wording here as a sample. I don't know if maybe this will work, Robert. It's got prosecution of any provisions of this section or prosecution of any provision of this chapter shall be commenced within 4 years after the date on which the violation occurred. Is that what you want to add, Mayor?
Yes.
That is sufficient language. Let's add that as section 40.15, statute of limitations.
And then, so did we make it a requirement for independent expenditures and PACs to get to register with the city?
Yes, let me get that for you, Mr. Mayor. Any political action committee as defined herein must file documents to city clerk identifying the political action committee and identifying the FPPC number of the PAC before any monies may be expended by the PAC in any city of Baldwin Park election defined in 40.02H.
Great. Good. Okay. So that would, so just to clear that, sorry, that means any independent expenditure regardless of amount?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
And the language we use here is any person who makes any independent expenditure. So that would be regardless of amount.
Great. And then so for contributions received, because we didn't have the limits before, now that we do, we don't want to make it seem like there's a, people have the head start. So I think we should consider a recusal after a certain amount of dollars have been, if a certain amount of dollars has been received from anybody. Also, just because I think we are allowing developers to also fund, we're allowing, I think, candidates to take money from developers. Is that correct?
Yes, during certain time periods. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so I would add that we can, if anybody received more than $750, then they'd have to recuse themselves on that vote. Does that make sense?
I thought that we were not allowing any campaign contributions from any developer or independent contractor that is currently doing business with the city or applied to do business with the city. So that shouldn't pertain here, correct, Robert?
That is correct. So any developer that's currently doing business or currently has anything before the city is barred completely. If they are not doing business and they do not have something before the city, then developers can contribute in a certain time period.
Got it. Okay.
But there might be based on timelines, we're barely putting this in. So any developers that might have any contractor that might have it's made an expenditure above $750, that's what I'm talking about. Does that make sense?
But that would only, it doesn't, because I think it's already covered under the current language that Robert has put in there, I believe.
So this is how to address contributions from restricted sources before they became restricted, is what I'm saying. So if there's a developer,
I mean, at that point, if they're restricted and if they're asking money, well.
Well, you wouldn't know. So it's money that they've already given before this. So how do we mitigate that is my question.
Why is it such a big issue? I mean, is money being floated around right now?
Well, I don't think there's money being floated around right now, but there's money being floated around in the past, right? And so, at the end of the day, if people have received thousands of dollars in contributions in the past, I think it's gonna make a difference when we're voting on this. And there was only one person that was able to donate at some point money to that campaign because they were able to donate before this was started. So that's also one of my concerns. So I would think that recusal after a 751 is more than fair.
So that I understand correctly, are you referring to any?
So like, let's say we have a contractor now, and they might have donated thousands of dollars in the past. They, if we don't do something to mitigate that, and later on, it might have the appearance of them having a head start because they were able to donate those thousands of dollars before this ordinance came in place.
And so you want to put a timeline as to the date that they received it from the last time they received the contribution from this developer?
We could put a timeline. I mean, you have to recuse yourself at least for a couple of years if you just took a donation from them a year or 2 years ago.
So an example, council member A received a $1,000 contribution from developer A year ago. Council member A is not allowed to vote on a certain item that developer is bringing up to the council now?
Yeah.
You might have problems with having enough people to vote on a particular item if they've given money to X amount of council members, A, B, or C in the past that did not have any money or did not have any projects at the time.
Yeah. So
how do you resolve that?
So Robert, if there's a recusal thing in here and there's not enough to hit the 3, and then council members are recusing themselves, what happens there?
If there are not enough people to vote, Mayor, like let's say out of the 5 council members, 3 of them are have been recused, then you couldn't pass that matter because you have to have a minimum number to pass any vote.
I think if anything, Mr. Mayor, what I recommend is if there's something like that, then we can just put a staff report that just illustrates that that person received, a contribution in the past or whatever the case may be. So it's all full transparency anyways, because these are all being, reported.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking ahead because I know, we'll all know where you took the money from. There's 460 forms, but they have to stop people from voting in the past. So just thinking ahead, if there's 5, there's an RFP out and there's only one who's been here for a long time and everybody else is new, and then that person gets the votes, then it's going to give an appearance, right? So that's my concern. If the council doesn't want to do the recusal, that's fine. But I just thought I'd bring that up. So we've touched on the fines, and then I think we touched last time we talked about the potential of doing fundraising season. And then Robert, did you look into that?
Yes, so I did. I did put some language in that related to the fundraising season. Let me see where it is here. It's under section 40.03. No candidate office holder, the control committee of such a person, or primarily formed committee will make any contribution or independent expenditure in a municipal election, except between 18 months prior to an election and December 31st, immediately following the election, as defined in 40.02H, where the candidate or office holder who is in the beneficiary of the contribution or independent expenditure is on the ballot.
Right.
And I think that related to the Alhambra ordinance that you had, or that the council had directed me towards.
Great. And so you put, what's the period?
So no candidate contribution shall accept any contribution except between 18 months prior to an election and December 31st, immediately following an election.
So I would maybe switch it up. And then, because once the election is over, a lot of people have to fundraise to pay off the debt. So instead of 18 months prior, you said 18 months prior?
Yes, sir. And December 31st, immediately following. So after an election in November, you would have till December 31st to, do additional fundraising, or you can make it January or February, whenever you wanted, but that's the window I inserted for you.
Okay. Can we do, yeah.
If I may, it's just regarding this particular item. And I'm fine with that. Robert, just out of curiosity, you have in that same section up on top, and I think we may have to clear this, is it says campaign contributions may only be solicited from October the year before an election through February of the year following an election. To me, that contradicts what you just wrote through December 31st. So do we want to, Mr. Mayor, as you were talking about extending it, do we want to just follow what it says up above through February of the following year of the election?
Yeah. So
right now.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No. I just wanted to point that out because there was, at least I saw that as an item.
Yes, I think you're correct. So if you want to change the time period, you can keep it, from October the year before. So that would make it what, 13 months. That would make it 13 months because it's in November, October, November. So that'd be 13 months, and through February the following year. So that'd be from November then till February the following year. then I'll take out the other language related to the 18 months and December 31st. Is that how you would like to do it?
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to recommend. Just that
Okay. Okay, so for purposes of the record, the paragraph in section 40.03, starting with no candidate or office holder, the control committee of such a person or a primarily formed committee, which will make any contribution or independent expenditure in a municipal election as defined in 40.02H, shall accept any contribution except between 18 months prior to the election and December 31st immediately following an election, as defined in 40.02H, where the candidate office holder who is the beneficiary of the contribution or independent expenditure is on the ballot. That paragraph is now deleted for purposes of the record. And we will keep in the paragraph, campaign contributions may only be solicited from October the year before an election through February of the year following an election. So that will now be your window.
Great.
Okay.
And then,
and of course, we also have the addition at the two changes we made is that one, and then section 40.15 as identified by Mayor Pro Tem Damian.
Great.
Mr. Mayor, I have additional questions when you are done.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Robert, just for clarification here.
Yes.
Sorry, there's no page number, so I just got to scroll up here. Sorry about that.
Okay.
There was, shoot. There was a transfer of amounts of $5,000 from the campaign from one election to be able to move to the next election cycle.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the current campaign limit that we have at the state level for local elections is 4,900, not 5,000.
That is correct. That's just talking about not one donation, but let's say you have money left over in your campaign, you're allowed to transfer 5,000 of that over. So that is not, doesn't relate to the $4,900 limit.
Okay.
That deal, yeah.
Perfect. And then the other item, just for clarification, for at least as I'm trying to understand this here, under loans, under section 40.11, under the loans.
Yes.
The second page there, under D, you have $10,000. I thought in the past you said there was a limit of only 4,900 based on the contribution limits that we have through the state. Is that different?
No, I checked that with Sean McMorris, council member, and I was incorrect in that earlier statement. So there is 10,000 is allowed, and that also is in some other city ordinances as well. But Sean corrected me on that.
Got it. And when you say shall personally make loans, is that because as you talk about loans up on top, it talks about a commercial entity making a loan. Is that just for clarification here, and if we have to, is that a loan like should a candidate write themselves a personal check to their campaign? Is that what that means?
That is one way to make a loan, but it also talks about if you're getting a loan from a commercial institution, so you're not using your own money, you're getting a loan from some bank to then loan yourself.
Okay.
So those are two different loans.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, and that's how it reads. I just wanted to make sure because I was just a bit confused. But thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no more questions.
Great, thank you. Great. So I believe that we've added all of these stuff. So one of the other things is protecting this, and then potentially putting a clause in there that states any amendments to the ordinance shall not act to weaken the ordinance or act in a manner that is counter to the spirit and or purpose and intent of the ordinance. Or there's a clause stating that amendment or repeal of any portion of the ordinance except mandated by a court of law shall require a unanimous vote from the mayor and council, or a 4/5 vote, exceptions for any amendments that are clerical, or act to further clarify clauses in the ordinance. Or we can do something where, the only way to repeal it would be on the ballot. That's a little concerning, it's a little serious and it would cost the city a lot of money. So I think that if we can get a fourth fifths with the language that states that the ordinance any amendment shall not act to weaken the ordinance or act in a manner that is counter to the spirit and or purpose and intent of the ordinance. And that should be changed by a fourth fifths vote of the council.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor. I don't think that was mentioned at the last time, so I don't think I have that language in here.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that I just, it kind of came on after. I thought about, I want to make sure that we not only pass this, but that we put it up to the voters to vote on it. And then if the voters, pass it, then that means that the community has fully supported it. So we want to make sure that a document like this isn't something that we take this time on and then, it can be changed in a matter of 30 days, right? So I think a clause like that is vital to something like this.
Okay, and do you have language, Mr. Mayor? Do you want me to bring language and bring it back, or how do you want me to handle that?
Can you just add the language? I don't think I have language for it. I have a clause that states any amendments to the ordinance shall not act to weaken the ordinance or act in a manner that is counter to the spirit and or purpose and intent of the ordinance. And then just to double check, we do have a purpose and intent on the ordinance.
We have not defined purpose and intent, but I think I don't think you need to define purpose and intent. I think we can still use that language.
Okay, should we define purpose and intent just to be secure, and then everything that we need is on that paper itself?
Okay, so
Los Angeles has something like the purpose of the section is to encourage a broader participation in the political process and to avoid corruption or the appearance of corruption in city decision-making and to protect the integrity of the city's procurement and contract processes by placing limits on the amount any person may contribute or otherwise cause to be available to candidates for the election to the offices of mayor, city, well, we don't have a city attorney, so city council, city clerk, and promote accountability to the public by requiring disclosure of campaign activities and imposing other campaign restrictions.
Mr. Mayor, did you mention, I may have missed it, but did you mention treasurer also or no?
No, we can add treasurer in there though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you forgot because this applies to those those seats too.
So I do have purpose and intent under the whereas, but let's add the language that you just enunciated under definition, section 40.02, and that will be M is now so 40.02M is now purpose and the language that you just enunciated. Is that okay, Mayor?
That's fine. And then we can put that clause in there that states, that any amendments to the ordinance shall not act to weaken it.
Yes, and so that clause, I would like for the purpose of the record to be section 40.16.
Great. And then right next to it, there would be a clause stating that an amendment or repeal of any portion of the ordinance, except mandated by a court of law, shall require a unanimous vote of the mayor and council.
Unanimous? I thought we just said 3/4.
4/5. 4/5.
4/5. Okay, 4/5. Okay. So that's all part of section 40.16 now. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yes, that is correct. And I believe we already touched on it by saying any, we don't have to say, and it doesn't in any way diminish or decrease the stringency of the ordinances. But I think we kind of touched on it on the first portion, correct?
Yes, that's the first portion of 40.16 that you read out.
Great. So I think that's it.
Okay. And do you want us to sort of, retype all this up and bring it back? You just want to incorporate it right now?
I would just incorporate it right now.
Okay, so we'll incorporate it right now under section 40.15 and section 40.16, and then and 4015 being the statute of limitations, section 40.16 being the language regarding purpose and intent and the 4/5 vote. And then if the council wishes at this point, they could pass the ordinance as amended by reading title only on first reading.
Great. So I will make a motion to pass the ordinance as amended. And that is a consideration of this ordinance. Where's the title reading?
Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Baldwin Park establishing campaign contribution limits and penalties.
Yes, so it is the purpose of the intent of the city council through this ordinance to establish an orderly political forum in which individuals and groups may express themselves effectively. So I'll make a motion to pass consideration of an ordinance of the city of Baldwin Park to establish campaign contribution limits and penalties in Baldwin Park with the added amendments. Can I get a second?
Second.
City clerk, can I get a roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Estrada,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Avila,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez. Motion.
So Mayor, really quick, will we be adding this to the ballot in November as well, or no?
I would think that would be the best way, just so that constituents get to vote on it and have their say.
So do we have to give direction for that?
I think I gave it at the last one, but we can give direction and then so we can, for chief deputy city clerk and city staff, they can plan to have this on the election for November. And then we still have a couple of months. If we decide that anything has to be changed before then, we can do so and continue looking at it. But I just thought it was important that we pass it now so that we're transparent about it and that everybody has that fair chance at knowing at the beginning of the year that elections are changing in the city of Baldwin Park.
Mr. Mayor, before we put it on the ballot, can I just ask staff before they do that to bring a report back to us on what that cost might be to the city? Because sometimes putting items on a ballot can significantly range anywhere from several $100,000s to quite a bit. So I don't know actually what it costs us to put an item on the ballot, but if we could just get a report back before we move forward on that, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. And I think chief deputy will have should be able to get us a breakdown of that.
Yes, we'll do. I can do an internal memo and provide you the cost estimate. I can't say at top of my head, because this is a general election that was scheduled. Placing one ballot versus 5 isn't very significant. It'll range from, it'll be like a $5,000 difference, but I will bring that forward via memo or a staff report, however you'd like to have me bring it.
If you could just bring it as a staff report, but make it available for the whole public.
Will do.
Thank you.
Great. Great. So that concludes our reports of officers. And then we have I know we have another meeting, but in the meantime, Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to give us your request?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I was looking at the special events calendar, and I know that we normally have our annual parade in November. So I wanted to request that we move our annual parade from November to December. I was looking at some dates with Manny, and we were thinking of December 3rd. So my initial thought behind this was doing a Christmas parade. I wanted to do it at night, so it's, you got the lights, kind of get the community more out, more involved. However, because it's, within this year, we may be competing with other night events. So maybe we can do it during the day, December 3rd, and combining it with brunch with Santa instead of having breakfast with Santa was kind of the idea. And I think that, we just need to make it a twist, bring a twist to it, make it a Christmas parade, get the community involved. I think that if we change gears this way and maybe next year, hopefully we can convert it into a night parade. I think it'll bring a lot of our residents out to enjoy the parade. I mean, our anniversary as a city incorporated is until January anyway. So it doesn't really make much of a difference if we keep it in November or December. I just think that maybe we can give it more of a Christmas feel and get the community more out involved with this parade.
I like that idea, Councilmember Damian, and especially we move it to the night parade. I've attended the Covina night parade and it's very well attended. So it's a great idea.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, who knows? Maybe if we keep doing the posada, we can even incorporate that, or we can do something. We just have to look into it. But I think that's a good idea. It makes more sense. We have more spirit and more things to do in December.
Our Zocalo should be completed, and so yeah, that sounds great. We can
eventually
continue it there.
Eventually, I'm thinking of telling Manny, eventually, not this year, but maybe hopefully next year, is bringing it onto Main Street and kind of give it more of that home downtown feel. Bring the parade down Main, leading it to the Zocalo, kind of, ending it with Santa and stuff like that. I think it's going to give it more of a, something that we really haven't had in the city for a very long time that I can remember. But I think that if we all are in consensus, we can give Manny direction to start looking into putting that in place.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, it'd be great if we can do the evening one this year, if possible. I don't know if there's already, if, staff could reach out to our neighbors. Well, this is for our residents, right? So I think we have enough of a draw here in our city if we were to do it on the same night of another, maybe not the adjacent city, but a few cities over. And maybe that may allow us some additional resources for us to do it on the evening instead of a daytime.
Yeah, and I think that would be great. I think Manny's still looking into that. I mean, he's looking at potential dates. We really don't want to we want to make sure that we're able to get the bands and whatever attractions we're going to bring to our parade. I know Covina has theirs December 3rd at night. So it may be competing with Covina's, depending on if we can get Manny, if you want to take it from here and kind of give us an explanation as to what it entails.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. My pleasure to elaborate a little bit more on our annual parade. Staff has been working on this for the past few days, looking into which days we could accommodate a nighttime parade. We checked with the governing board that works with the bands, and there are various parades throughout Southern California. As Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, City of Covina they have their nighttime parade on December 3rd, which is the first Saturday in December. So not sure if the City Council would like to schedule our parade on the same evening. It might be a little challenging because a lot of they have an established event, and it might be a little challenging to have the bands participate in our parade. What we have been instructed by the governing agency that oversees the bands, if we had ours in the morning on December 3rd, that some bands may participate in the AM parade, say the 10 a.m. parade, and then we would have the awards at about 2 p.m. And then from there, they would travel next door to the city of Covina to have the PM parade, which I believe starts at 6 p.m. So that might be a nice fit, but I do see the council's wishes to have a parade in the evening. We looked at the calendar, and there are some large parades, not only Covina, but if we push it back a few weeks, and then we run into the holiday break and vacation for the kids that are school-age kids in high school. So I honestly think the December 3rd AM would probably be our best option at this point. We could reevaluate it and possibly move it to a December 3rd or a first Saturday in December PM later on down the road.
Manny, if I may.
Yes.
Yes, and you made a great point. The bands, they actually start booking their parades ahead of time. So
yes,
the likelihood of us getting bands, which is the biggest showcase when you go to parade, of course, it's going to be harder because they've already established the parades that they go to on a yearly basis. And going from one parade to the other, it's doable. I've known of many bands that have done that. They do a morning parade or a field show at night, but it just combines. So they're ready for that. They know how to go from one event to the other. So for it being the first year, I think for it to be successful and have a good turnout of bands, we would have to do it in the day so it doesn't clash with the rest of the other cities' schedule. I think it's a good idea for now. But eventually I would like it in the evening too. It would be more appropriate for the Christmas parade, but for the day, I don't mind that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for that. So at this moment, we are at the Baldwin Park Housing Authority virtual regular meeting.
I just had one more last thing, Mayor. Sorry about that. Because I was reviewing the, like I said, the events budget, and I did notice that we don't have our downtown street market approved here. So I wanted to direct staff to present a proposed budget for the downtown street market to bring back to the March 2nd city council meeting, because we're already going to be in March and the street market starts around June, July after the concerts at the park. So we have to pass that that budget. So if we can give staff direction to bring that proposed budget to the March 2nd meeting so that we can approve the downtown street market.
Did we approve the concerts in the park? I don't have that in front of me.
I do not recall specifically, but it is a traditional event. The concerts in the park will start on June 30th. So we will have one event in this fiscal year, and we'll have 11 more events in the new fiscal year.
Okay, you know what? I don't see the concerts here either, Manny. So I don't know. Do you guys include them within the same budget, or are they two separate budgets for the concerts on the downtown?
Isn't it two?
They're usually we include them annually. Maybe when we put together this last budget, it was deleted because of COVID. So I'd have to double check on that specifically.
So let's put it on there as well if it's not.
Yeah, so let's bring back a proposed budget for both the concerts at the park and the downtown street market so that we can bring it to the next council meeting, and then, you know, approval of that so we can get that going.
And I'm sure by then we'll have enough staff, Manny. We're hoping.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So we are at the virtual regular meeting for Housing Authority. There's a consent calendar, so I will make a motion to pass that consent calendar. Can I get a second?
Second.
And then the Finance Authority virtual regular meeting, we do have a consent calendar, and I will make a motion to pass that consent calendar. Can I get a second? Oh, sorry. So there's a motion. So City Clerk, can you do the roll call, please?
Okay, this is for the housing, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so Mayor Estrada,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Avila,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great, thank you for that. And now we have the Baldwin Park Finance Authority, and I will make a motion to pass that consent calendar. Can I get a second?
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you. Mayor Estrada,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Avila,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great. And then I just have one question for Sam. Hey, Sam, the bridge that connects Baldwin Park to Kaiser, is that city property, or is that Caltrans?
So it's Caltrans owned, city maintained.
Very nice. And then do we have any plans to put any wayfinders there?
No, we do not at the moment.
Can we explore the possibility of putting something near that bridge? I think that's like one of the biggest entrances, especially because of freeways and then the Kaiser. It'd be nice. I think it'd be really nice to pay homage to the original Baldwin Park sign that used to hang here in the downtown 100 years ago. So maybe we can explore something to put there.
Absolutely, yes. We can take care of that. Incidentally, we did try this a few years ago to put in a entry sign that said City of Baldwin Park on the bridge. Didn't go very far, but we'll reconnect with Caltrans and start up the conversation again.
Yeah, sure. Nice. Or maybe we could even just put it on city property if it meets, if it's a good spot or something. Sure. To explore. Great, thank you. So at this moment, we are not adjourning, but we are recessing back into closed session. So I will see council members and staff, and then I will say good night to everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, Mayor. Good night, Council.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
We'll be back.